Welcome to the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurs, founders, and leaders at B2B services, tech, and SaaS companies to learn the systems and processes they've used to create success for their business. We'll also learn from marketing and sales experts to provide insights to help you grow your business. I'm your host, Mark Osborne, and the podcast is brought to you by Modern Revenue Strategies and their 10x ROI B2B growth guarantee. Schedule a free diagnostic call to learn the fastest path to double your B2B revenues in just 90 days. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. I'm your host, Mark Osborne, and today I'm very excited to welcome my guest. I'm actually going to read this to make sure I get it right. Cheryl Mucha is the founder and CEO of CFO Your Way. CFO Your Way serves as an experienced outsourced chief financial officer for growing businesses and specializes in business strategy, systems implementation, and internal controls. Cheryl is a highly accomplished senior executive, a CPA, an author. We're going to talk about her book a little bit, a consultant with more than 30 years of experience in accounting and finance. Cheryl's expert team is experienced in all aspects of financial accounting across numerous industries, positioning their clients for strategic growth. So Cheryl, thanks so much for joining us today.
Mark, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited for our conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I gave a little bit of a background, but tell us a little more about what do you do there at CFO Your Way?
So we're all about helping and educating business owners so that they understand what the numbers mean and the story behind the numbers in their business so that they can use that information to take the business to the next step, whether it's future investment in people, places, and just the growth that they want to see within the business.
That's really interesting. Now, do you sometimes find that companies will come to you with, sort of like an idea of, hey, we want to do this to grow, but where do we get the money from? Or is it more that they don't really, have a sense of their finances, so they don't even know where there's opportunities to grow until you find those for them?
It's a great question because surprisingly, a lot of business owners don't even know their numbers. Like they're looking at the end of the year when they're getting ready to do their taxes, like, oh no, I have to get all this stuff together to bring to the CPA to do the taxes. And, they're looking back and not, they don't have the ability to use those numbers to run their business. So they're coming to us to put systems in place, get updated daily, transactional, everything into the system that needs to be there. And then we can start talking to them about the financials, what it means, what they need to do to improve either profitability or cash flow or whatever, it may be, in order to take the steps that they want to take to get to the next level within the business.
Wow. So they're finding out after they meet with you whether they had a good year or not.
Exactly.
They've just been head down churning so fast they're not even sure.
Right. And business owners typically get that urgency or that real sense of frustration, the first quarter of the year when they're talking to their CPA about last year, right? And now it's like, I'm not going to do that again this year. I'm not going to be in the same position, at the end of the current year.
So I think that sort of leads into an interesting topic. I know you talk a lot about planning and the importance of planning. We do a lot of sort of planning with our clients too. Harvard Business School says that businesses with a marketing plan are 4 times more successful than those without. Like literally just writing it down on paper is going to 4x your success. I know as companies are growing a lot, there's a lot of hungry mouths to feed, and so having a plan helps them to do a better job of knowing if they're on plan or not. Tell us about some stories that you've seen, and as you relate your experience today, I know you've worked with lots of businesses. A lot of our audience is professional services and B2B SaaS folks that are going after large contracts, which then means lots of stakeholders and, battling sort of long sales cycles as they're going after that. So, and typically they're in sort of early stage, but not startup sort of size. So if you think about some examples from, companies you've worked with within that space, tell us some of the transformation that you've seen from implementing some financial systems.
Yeah, again, great question, great topic. So I always say business owners are successful sometimes despite themselves, and they can bring the business to a certain level, right? And then they get stuck. So looking at the financials, understanding the numbers, implementing change, I refer to it as finding the leaks within the P&L, can only improve the bottom line. And again, it's knowing the information, tracking the information, using that information to really take that leap to the next level. And we see it over and over again. And I love what we do. I love, seeing, educating and seeing the light bulb go on in the business owner's head when you present them with either their own financials or ideas around their financials that they never even thought about. And that's the clicking point
Uh-huh.
that really helps them to leap ahead.
That's really interesting. Yeah, we see, similar things, from the marketing and sales side of things where, a lot of times someone will work in an industry for a long time and so they'll have an idea for a better mousetrap and they'll found a business to sort of deliver that mousetrap and then they'll grow it to sort of that first stage of success. They don't know how to grow beyond that. And
Right.
that's when they'll bring in some expertise on the marketing or sales side. Sounds like the same thing is true from sort of the financing and business operation side, that they just kind of reach a ceiling of what they can do on their own without sort of bringing in some external expertise.
Right. And I say to the business owners all the time, you went into business. I use the word widget, right? You went into business to build your widget, whatever it is, if it's a product or service, whatever it is. You're not the marketing expert. You're not the finance expert. You're not the human resource expert. So surround yourself with those folks that can elevate you
That's right. Yeah.
and free up your time, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, to do the things that you started the business for.
Yeah. Well, and we see, and I'm sure you've probably seen this too, they're at this sort of inflection point of, well, to grow, I need some additional insight. That question of, well, should I hire a full-time, CFO? That could be really expensive. And whereas I bet that they get 80% or more of the value of that from working with a firm like CFO Your Way, that allows them to really sort of focus on what they want to focus on in the business instead of maybe the things they don't like as much, like the accounting and finance aspects of it.
100%. And the value that we bring to the table is not only our many years of experience, but also our exposure with all of our clients. So I always like to remind the business owner that all this experience we have with all of our clients, we bring to each of our clients.
Mm,
So everyone, different industry, different size, different, way of operating brings different ideas.
that's right. Well, and bringing those systems to bear really creates a lot of freedom for those business. We have a phrase around here. We say, B2B growth systems set you free. Free to, free from the stress of not knowing what's happening. You were talking about, the business owner getting to the end of the year and not even knowing if they had a good year or not, because they don't have a system in place to sort of keep track of that. Same thing
Right.
certainly true on, sort of the marketing and sales front. When they don't have a system, they don't know whether or not their bets are going to pay off. They don't know how to make strategic investments in certain things. Tell us a little bit about, some of
And
this.
if I could, Mark,
Yeah,
just to that same point, they don't know what's working and they don't know what is not working.
that's
So
right.
they may be heading down the path of what's not working without even realizing.
Yeah. Have you seen any, sort of, or anecdotes you can share of, companies that maybe were going a long time in a direction that they thought was a good direction, but then once they actually did the analysis, found out maybe it wasn't as good of an idea as they thought it was.
Yeah, we see it all the time. So a business has, multiple service offerings, let's just say, and, overall they're profitable. But when they look at the business as a whole, they're profitable. But when they break it down to the different services that they're offering, they may find one that is not profitable at all, or even generating a loss, but they
Right.
continue to offer it, right? Because it's part of what they do. Well, if you drop that from what you're offering, or even look at it and raise prices, or figure out how to do it better through systems or people or whatnot, you increase your bottom line overall.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like really kind of a strategic line of thinking that you work with your clients. So it's not just sort of accounting and bookkeeping. You're really getting into sort of how your clients operate their business, and where their cash comes from.
Absolutely. So, we offer all the services from bookkeeping to controller to CFO, and you need good books and records. You need someone to handle the day-to-day transactions within the organization, right? And that's the bookkeeping piece. And you need that good, accurate, up-to-date data in order to do the analysis.
Hmm.
Stale data, inaccurate data is only gonna it's not going to improve anything. It's only going to send you through, just send you down the rabbit hole, I'll say.
Right.
They go hand in hand, and that's really why we offer both and a lot of our clients engage with the bookkeeping and the controller or the CFO work because they see the value and the impact it has on how they run their business, how they operate their business.
That's really interesting. And I know that you're an author too. You published a book, I think, on cash flow. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So I actually have a copy of it here. I don't know
Oh,
if
it looks
it's too
great.
glary, but Smooth Business Sailing, 12 Tips to Sustain Your Cash Flow. And it's all about looking at your business from a different perspective. And there's 12 areas within the book that allow you to do that deep dive. I give a little bit, tips and tricks, some worksheets to really put pen to paper, think about these things, and then analyze them and figure out the best route forward.
So of those 12, when you're working with, clients, or, doing speaking, or going on shows like this, what's the one that winds up being the biggest surprise to most business owners of, oh, I never thought of that.
I think the biggest surprise is a business, a company that has debt. And maybe they have different sources of debt. Most companies have credit card debt. They maybe have a line of credit, or if they own their building, they have a mortgage and whatnot. And they pay, they pay what they need to pay every month, month over month. Maybe they can't pay their credit card in full because cash is a little bit tight. And they never look at it from a perspective of, what am I really paying for? What is the rate, the cost of this debt? And there's always opportunity out there to reduce that rate. I know now we're in a very high interest rate environment, but
Right.
there's ways to consolidate that debt. You're paying, on a credit card, you're paying, 17, 20, 25%, right? Why
Right.
carry that balance if you can go to your bank and get a line of credit at even 8%?
Right.
That extra cash that you're saving every month can go to pay that principal down, can go to invest in something else, whether people, something else within the business. And it's business owners get stuck in the routine, right? Just pay it. It is what it is, just pay it.
Right.
But if you take the time to step back and really analyze what it is you're paying for, there's opportunity to make change and to find those leaks, right?
That's like a prime example of, the taking the time to be strategic, instead of,
Exactly.
and having a system in place that allows you to even identify that it's there, where instead of just being heads down running away at delivering on the business and not thinking about those things.
Right. And I'm just going to throw this out as a tip to your, the listeners here. Most credit cards allow you to change your billing date. So if you're in a cash flow crunch, maybe 1 month, request a billing date change, and then it extends the due date of that payment. It might be worth a conversation. It might be worth a look at it. And it'll maybe just buy you, even if it's 2 weeks. Sometimes that's enough time to just improve your cash flow.
That's a really good tip. Now, how often can you do that? How often will credit card companies let you do that?
It depends on the credit card company. I mean, they won't let you do it every month, obviously,
Yeah.
but if you do it once or twice a year and it really relieves the cash flow strain.
Especially for companies that have, really high seasonality,
Right.
whether, services related to financial that, the end of year and tax time can be big seasons, or e-commerce companies or companies in that space where the holidays are such a big time. I could see, just some clever timing of that could be really transformational.
Absolutely. But, make sure that your credit card company allows it. I don't want
Sure.
anyone
Yeah, don't
screaming
plan on
at
it.
me like, it
Don't
costs
plan on it and then get
50%, right?
stuck. That's great. So these have been some good tips and tricks. Obviously, you've got a real wealth of information for, some of our listeners who, maybe they're in that position where they're just heads down and, cranking along on keeping the business running day to day. What's you told us sort of the most surprising thing that a lot of people don't think about, which is that credit card. What's the most important thing? And maybe it's from those 12 tips and tricks to keep smooth sailing cash flow, or maybe it's just from your experience of working with so many companies over the years. For, what's the thing that if they, really spend some time, they've got a little bit of time here at the end of the month that they can spend on, an extra project. What would be that project that you would encourage them to spend that's going to make the biggest impact?
I would definitely say take the time to not only look at your bank statements, whether it's online or you get a paper copy, look at those bank statements to make sure that what you think is happening in your business is actually happening in your bank. And along with that, look at your financials, at the least your balance sheet and your income statement, and just make sure that you understand it. We do KPIs with our clients, which are trends, and there's hundreds and hundreds of KPIs. We find the ones that are most meaningful to the business and the business owner. Pick a couple, even if it's 3, 4, and start to track them on a monthly basis. Again, the numbers tell a story, and if those KPIs are fluctuating in a way that is surprising to you, or you can't explain, that means there's something that's not aligned. And take the time to do that deeper dive to
Yeah.
really understand it.
Yeah. That's a great note. And it's one of the things too, I know your business focuses a lot on building systems, and ours does too. And sometimes when I talk to business owners, they're like, I don't have time to build this system. Like I'm too busy, I'm too busy working in it. But what you just described of just pick 3 KPIs. And I bet in a 5-minute Google search about what are the most important financial KPIs for this type of business, they'd get pretty easy consensus on, what are, good top 3. And just starting to track that, that's the beginnings of a really good system that then allows them to think, okay, well, what drives that KPI? Well, these processes. Okay, well, maybe I can get some leading indicators on that KPI. Before you know it, they've got a system that allows them to get input on how their business is running and how they can improve it on a regular, ongoing basis.
Absolutely. Again, it's simple. It's, absolutely Google it. I'm sure you'll get more of an education than you thought you would get. But just, find the 3. If they're not really indicating anything for you, find another 3.
Yeah.
It's not a stagnant thing. You have to find the ones that are most impactful.
Yeah,
And I'm sure too, with the marketing, like it's all measurable.
that's right. Well, and even, we work, I'm a big believer, not everyone is in marketing, but I'm a big believer that, building a brand matters. But there are business outcomes from building your brand, and you can find, sort of KPIs and metrics that can help you establish, well, how well are we doing at building this so that you can put a real business value on it. And when you build that in your system, then you've got, sort of this feedback loop that allows you to sort of know, well, should I stop or start or continue on the things that you're doing on an ongoing basis without just cranking away and not knowing, you're out there selling and delivering this unprofitable product, as you talked about earlier, that really isn't doing much for anybody other than the clients. And maybe they don't even like it that much, and it leads to sort of bad client relationships.
Exactly. Just running in the hamster wheel does not move you forward.
That's right. Well, this has been a really good conversation, Cheryl. I appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. If you, as the owner of your own business and professional services, do you have any piece of advice for, sort of aspiring, founders or maybe folks that are very early on in their business and wanting to sort of achieve the same success? What would be that sort of piece of advice to another founder?
I think my consistent piece of advice is to surround yourself with knowledgeable folks. You may not be able to engage and use their services, but like myself, there's a lot of professionals out there that are willing to have those conversations to help you establish and build the foundation for your business. And I always say you need that strong foundation, right? You don't want it to collapse. And just find those people around you with different areas of expertise to be able to tap into to help you make the decisions that'll stick for the long term.
I love that. So many great authors talk about, like building your board of directors. Well, even if
Right.
it's not sort of a formalized thing, just having folks that you can go to and talk about ideas with and things. And the other thing that I'm always, sort of continually amazed by in businesses, so many people are so generous and are willing to spend a little bit of time, and you can get so much knowledge just from a little bit of time with someone who's a real expert. And oftentimes they're willing to share it. So I appreciate you sharing some of your expertise with us here today, Cheryl.
And thank you so much for having me, Mark. This was great. And, I make myself available to anyone out there that just has that question or has that wall in front of them that they don't know how to get past. If I can spread some knowledge or give them a little tidbit here or there, I'm all about it. I am so happy to have those conversations.
So how do folks get in touch with you if they want to, whether it's engage CFO your way for, a formalized project or just have a conversation with you? How should they get in touch?
So my website is cfoyourway.com. There's a form on there that you can fill in to get in touch with me. And my email address is Cheryl with a C, CHERYL at cfoyourway.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay. Awesome. Well, we'll put all of those links in the show notes so people will be able to get in touch with you. But thank you so much for coming on the show and being with us today. I know our listeners surely gained a lot.
Thank you so much, Mark, for having me. I always enjoy these kinds of conversations.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for joining this episode of the B2B Growth Blueprint podcast. We hope you've gained insights to grow your business. If you enjoyed this discussion, please rate, comment, like on your favorite platform, and share to others who will find it useful. Do you know a CEO, founder, or leader at an early stage B2B services, tech, or SaaS company who would like to be a guest and share their story? Send us a note. Let's schedule a conversation.